So, guys, this is my top five list of things that I was not prepared for in coming to Ukraine, that I just did not expect. And it might be worth qualifying that I've never lived abroad. I mean, I've vacationed in a number of European countries, Central and South America, but the Caribbean, but never lived in Europe. And so there are a couple of things that I was not prepared for. And you might want to think about if you're thinking at all seriously about coming to Ukraine. So the first thing is the language. I had read so much about how much English is spoken here. And this has traditionally been a bilingual country where everybody spoke Ukrainian and Russian. And there is a big movement now to get away from Russian and to speak English. But regular folks on the street don't speak English. It's not a thing. Some here, a little bit there. But unless you're working with educated people, folks with university degrees, people under, say, 35, you're not likely to get anybody you can have a conversation with. And a lot of the folks in those categories, same thing. So I was naive in the idea that I would be able to get along just fine everywhere with English. It's not the case. And I wish that I had learned Cyrillic before I came. The alphabet is different from the Latin alphabet. It's 33 characters. It's not a hard adjustment. It's just that the language contains a number of sounds that we just don't have and requires some practice. And so I would encourage you to consider that first. Without some basic language skills, it is hard to get along, and you are going to be a lot less useful than you could be otherwise. And a phone plan. I had a phone plan that, according to my plan, I got high-speed internet in 128 countries, including Ukraine. The fine print, though, it's for the first 5 gigs. After that 5 gigs, they throttle your bandwidth, and you got to buy another $50 for another blah, blah, blah. So check your plan. Plan on getting a Ukrainian phone and phone plan and budget for that. Everything here is the same as it is in any industrialized major capital city that you would expect, but it's not. Everything's a little bit different. I mean, the obvious things like plugs for the outlets, getting European plugs. But then little things like there's no Walmart, there's no 7-Eleven. The things that you expect to be able to find easily, suddenly you have to go to a specialty store to get. So it's a different world. If you've lived in Europe, you know what to expect. If you've never lived abroad before as an American who's used to a certain level of convenience, for example, I've never lived anywhere where the cab drivers would expect you to walk to them, sometimes 2 blocks. What? That's the way it is, right? There's places where they can pick you up and places where they can't. And if you're in a place where they can't, you're not getting in that cab without walking the 2 blocks to where they are. That happens. There is a mythology, I think, born out of the 90s that things in Eastern Europe are cheaper, a lot cheaper than they are in the US. And it's true, things here are less expensive, but they're not that much less expensive. It's not that much different living in Kyiv in terms of cost of living than, say, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's not that different. And there's after 70 years of communism and 300 years of Russian imperialism, there's no tradition or history of a consumer culture here. There are no cheap consumer goods. When I left the States, I left with 3 shirts and 2 pairs of pants. And I thought my plan was, right, because I kind of stick out like a sore thumb no matter what I do. I thought when I got here to Kyiv, I would just buy a new wardrobe of local clothes, local manufacturers, so I fit in better, right? So people wouldn't look at me walking down the street and say, oh, there's an American. Well, I'm 6'2", I'm 300 pounds. I can't get clothes in this town that fit me. I have to go to a specialty shop, and things are not cheap there. I needed a suit. Suit cost me $1,000. So that consumer culture, cheap consumer goods, where we can get cheap throwaway items in the U.S., that does not exist here. So plan for that. And then there's all the little things. Like, as far as I can tell, there's no peanut butter in this whole country. I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I got to go to Poland. That's the world I'm living in over here. And so if you have some friends at home that can send you care packages of your favorite hot sauces, thank you, Aunt Fran and Uncle Bill, of your favorite hot sauces and peanut butter and Heinz tomato ketchup, that's a thing of beauty.